Welcome to the Report for Tiger Mountain, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk about the Ukraine and how support for the Ukraine does nothing but prolong the war and prolong the suffering of the Ukrainian people. Stick around and listen. So, ladies and gentlemen, yes, we're going to talk about Ukraine today. Look, obviously one thing we've noticed, as COVID began to fade, the globalists decided to start World War III. That lovely Jewish boy, Zelenskyy, over in Ukraine, decided to start off World War III and had raised Mel Gibson's eyebrow yet again. And, it was very amusing, well, not really amusing, actually. It's been a complete disaster because, obviously, Ukrainians are good Europeans and so are Russians. And, it's another brothers' war, ladies and gentlemen, much like, we saw in World War I and World War II that decimated Europe. So we're seeing another horrible war in Europe. I guess, how do you define Europe? Is Russia part of Europe? I guess it's at the edge of Europe. Russia is kind of Russia, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? And if Biden thinks, he's going to destroy Russia, I think he should probably talk to, Genghis Khan, maybe, or Napoleon, or even Hitler, mate, because he's not going to. They'll all kind of laugh. It's like, good luck with that one, because I don't think anyone's managed to do that yet, to basically occupy and defeat Russia. So this globalist war against Russia, I think, is bound to fail. But in the meantime, the Ukrainian people are just going to suffer. And, I grew up with someone who was a Ukrainian, who had a Ukrainian father, and, I'm aware of the plight of the Ukrainian people. They suffered terribly under the Bolsheviks, during the Holodomor, which was an event that killed between 6 and 12 million Ukrainians, more people than the Holocaust, probably twice as many. And of course, you've never heard of it, because Ukrainians don't own media, and they don't own Hollywood, and they don't own 100 news stations in America. So that's why you've never heard of the Holodomor. Check it out online, though. But it's a terrible event that happened in the Ukraine, and it was a communist atrocity that killed approximately 12 million people. It was involved a kind of forced starvation. So obviously there's been a lot of suffering that's gone on in the Ukraine, and if you see any of the footage that comes out of Ukraine, we're getting more of the same. And I'm a fan of a Russian philosopher who's close to Putin, Alexander Dugin, and I've got a couple of books of his over there that I'm reading at the moment. One called The Multipolar World, and another one, The Fourth Political Theory, where he kind of expounds his beliefs, and it's a fascinating subject. That he believes in a multipolar world that there's kind of areas of the world that have a sphere of influence. And if you think about it, it's quite true. Obviously, for example, America has a sphere of influence in Canada and Mexico because they border the country, right? America has to have a sort of some level of good relationship with Canada and some level of good relationship with Mexico, right? To maintain its stability. Well, it's a very similar situation with Russia and the Ukraine. It's right on Russia's border. It's like the gateway to Russia. So there needs to be a good relationship between Ukraine and Russia. And there was one when there was a kind of Russian-friendly leader until the globalist revolution there in, I think it was 2014. And then obviously the neo-Nazis in Ukraine began to attack ethnic Russians in the east, in the Donbass and other areas, and this current nightmare was born. You can look up the history of all this, and there's a fascinating documentary by Oliver Stone on all this. But I really think that the best result is for Ukraine to surrender, to get rid of this bloodthirsty vampire Zelenskyy, and to put somebody who's Russian friendly. The Ukrainian people should elect somebody who is Russian friendly, and then the problem will go away within a week. But Western powers are pumping money and aid, like, your Biden and Pelosi visited, and they're sending $40 billion over there. And this is why someone like Hunter Biden was there. He was like a bag man. He would take the money that comes in, which is the funding, and then he would do kickbacks. $100 million to Uncle Joe, $100 million to Schumer, $100 million to Pelosi. This is why she's rubbing her hands so delightedly, because the American government is completely corrupt for these wars, and we've seen this before in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria. It's just on and on and on, these warmongers. Under Trump, we had a break from these kind of wars, but they're back under the globalists, and they'll continue. And all that's happening is that the elites are continuing to enrich themselves off war and this horrible situation where poor Ukrainians are being massacred for no reason. So supporting the Ukraine in this war effort, I think, is stupid. And the sooner a peace is worked out between a Russian-friendly government in Ukraine and Putin, the sooner this all ends and goes away. And they've got to get rid of that guy Zelenskyy, because he's clearly been sent there to foment this war, which is exactly what he's been doing, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the report for Tiger Mountain on the Ukraine situation.